Orange, blue, orange, blue, orange. You know what? I can't decide. Blue or orange. Wait, I know. Purple!
Hello, my fellow hunters. Today we talk Alatreon's scale glowing colour. Now you might be sat there thinking, really? Does that matter? And to that I say, of course it does. And let's be honest, any excuse to have a lovely blazing black dragon discussion is one that I will take because, oh my god, he's so goddamn cool! So Alatreon's scales are what produces his element. They are what makes him this boiling, melting pot of dragon, ice, thunder, and fire. And it's very much random. He's just chugging along and the scales are like, ding, it's fire! And he's like, cool, guess I'm burning you alive now! And that's a very fun way for a black dragon to be. But his scales then have only generally have only had two colours they glow. One the orangey red and one the cool blue, which kind of makes sense. The orangey red is the dragon and the fire, the cool blue is the lightning and the ice, and of course he tends to glow orange when on the ground, and on the ground is where he uses his dragon and his fire, tends to glow blue in the air, and in the air is where he mostly uses his ice and his lightning. That kinda just, neatly ties up good old Alatreon. Okay! But it would seem then that he is getting a new mode. Purple mode! Which I admit is not the most, threatening of names. But it's probably going to be really quite threatening when we are faced with it, because purple mode would seem to be the mode whereby he starts mixing elements, or at the very least the mode where he reaches critical mass and starts just exploding all of them at you at once. So in the first trailer there wasn't really a hint of this, but in this most recent one you do see very clearly his purple scales being purple scales. Purple mode! Look, okay, it's fun to say, really. And quite clearly, while this is happening, there is Dragon just freely crackling, uncontrollably, randomly, from his body. He is yelling, and he is probably not the happiest dragon. I mean, if I was walking along and suddenly I was just shooting random bolts of energy from me and I had no say in it, I'd be a little bit grumpy too. And then there's fire and lightning, and let's be honest, there'll be ice in there somewhere, but it's like if he gets to a certain point, maybe damaged enough, maybe angry enough, maybe enough time has passed, he will go to purple mode and then fire off his ultimate move. This complete release, this boiling point, this tipping over of elements where they all just get released cataclysmically at once, and the map, the zone, gets bathed in his fury. Everything aflame, everything destroyed. The earth itself cracking and crumbling, which you see just a little smidge of at the end. It seems to really perhaps even change the environment. The ground starts quaking. Maybe he destroys platforms that you're on every time you reach a certain threshold, and that's how the fight progresses zone by zone. It's very exciting to see that they have given him this new little extra dimension that signifies this proper mixing of elements. So, why is this such a big deal? Outside of being, badass, it really gives him that extra oomph that I think the first fight was just a little bit missing for something that can control all of the important elements. Sorry, water. I never realized growing up just how often I'd have to make water sad as life went on, but it's It's an alarming amount of times. Either way, it seems then that the Alatreon fight is getting much less rigid. We see him in this very trailer on the ground, glowing blue, firing icicles out, which seem to stick where they land, which is really quite cool, and coupled with the new moves we've seen from the first trailer, his mixed element cone breaths, it might just be that he gets to a certain point where purple is just it now, and he starts doing all of his mixed attacks, maybe starting more rigid, and as the fight goes on, he loses kind of element mode and just becomes all four at once. You know, gets his avatar state on. That might be quite a neat way to turn up the intensity, as well the fight gets more intense. But to me, what's exciting is the areas that we see him in, at least to me, I don't recognize off the bat. Now, of course, with the various camera angles and lighting and action happening, it might just be that they are the 3 zones we fought Safi'jiiva in, and, you know, it's just hard to tell that. But I feel like it would be a little bit anticlimactic if they just plopped Alatreon in those exact same zones that are carved out for Safi'jiiva. So I would like to see a few new areas, even if it's just one to be added on, and I don't think that's entirely unlikely. I don't think it's just for effect that he is burning the entirety of the shed skin. I don't think it's just because it looks cool that everything seems to be destroyed. The earthquakey effect too. And to put on the tinfoil hat for just a moment, one of the reasons too that I wanted to make this little discussion before we get probably a load more information tomorrow and everything I'm saying here is proven to be completely garbage, but for now let's have fun believing in it. I want to assume that there is multiple Safi'jiivas. And the reason I want to assume that is, first, it kind of makes sense, because, you know, there was multiple Zenos, as it turned out. One of them turned into the Safi that we fought, so it's entirely possible that there is more Safis. And this area isn't just the Safi'jiiva nest, it's the secluded valley. It's a huge area of the land. It's a huge cave system carved into the mountain at the back of the Guiding Lands. There is a lot going on here, and it's, well, likely that there is a lot more to explore, i.e. another Safi'jiiva in another nest area. And this means that once we kill Alatreon, once he has been slain, what happens to his energy? What does a Safi'jiiva do if he manages to find and up a load of Black Dragon essence? And I warn you, this is completely out there and almost 99% not gonna happen. But you know, when we very first got the little teaser for Safi'jiiva, before we even knew his name or what he was, the first time we saw him,
I am vengeance. I am the night. I am...
yeah, that, when we thought he was, well, a black dragon, because he looked, well, completely darkened charcoal skin, and it just looked really badass, especially with the ghostly green whitey fire that turned out to just be normal Zeno blue. But is that just a completely lighting trick to hide him from us, or maybe was that a little bit of a teaser much farther ahead than we thought? Maybe the end game, maybe one monster we'll get is a fully mature Safi'jiiva. Maybe Zeno is the baby, Safi is the adolescence, and then there is a third stage that is the mature, and that one has taken on some Black Dragon juice and become much more like that, darkened, and so much more powerful. His flames turned up in intensity from the blue to the more pure white with the green tinge, the ghostly look. And again, this is just completely preposterous, but it would be very interesting to see if this nest connection, the burning of his skin, this tenuous Safi'jiiva link that seems to be going on here, actually turns out to be something a little bit substantial. I doubt it, but I thought it would be fun to posit. Chiefly, of course, I just wanted to discuss the new Purple Mode, what it might mean for the fight, and really, I'm hoping then that his AoE spamming and all of that stuff, that I was a little bit concerned he might just turn into a permanent Lunastra Nova level annoyance, seems to be perhaps restricted to certain phases, to Purple Mode, to a mixed element state. But at the very least, this fight looks like it's going to be unbelievably exciting. Looks like it's going to involve the environment, it is going to involve the entire zone, involve all the elements in a way that we've not seen before, and it's a whole new Alatreon, and it's Alatreon that looks just gorgeous. The way his glow is done now, the contrast, he looks so much better than he used to when he was already badass. So, you know, just a few little things to think about before we find out a load more things to think about, and I'm sure you'll hear from me once again. But for now, like you've enjoyed this, subscribe for more, and I will see you soon. A goodbye.
Rage Gaming with the video float.
But that's all that's really relevant at the mo, but I'm still gonna leave this up so you patrons know that I love you even though the outro's no longer that kind of relevant. But the new one's being worked on and it's gonna be a truly badass song, and don't worry, I won't be doing any rapping on it. I'm gonna go now. This was shit.